Hello, hello. I'm back rather quickly. So this video's purpose is to provide instruction and hopefully inspire you to look at your brushes differently and open up new ways of applying makeup. So this might be an ongoing series because I often get a lot of questions on how do you use this brush? And there's no question I get more than how do you use really big eye brushes? So to give you an idea, a big eye brush would be an eye brush about this size, while a medium eye brush I would consider to be something like this. So as you can see, the size difference. It's much easier to imagine ways to use this medium-sized brush than this large one. However, if you use the large eye brushes correctly, they can be as versatile and useful as a smaller eye brush. So I have several categories to talk about based on the shape and build. So the first category I have are very shaped or tapered ones. So this first category you can see are paddle shapes, but they're on the flatter side and they're more shaped like a diamond if you look at them. And then here's one more. Actually, I have 5 in this category. And then these are all different types of hairs as well. So if I just rotate them, you can see they're quite flat, but most importantly, they have that chiseled diamond shape. The second category I have are fluffier ones. So they're also the flat paddle shape, but they flare up more and have more of a rounded dome edge or dome tip rather than that diamond tip. And then the third category are kind of just what the heck brushes that have no equivalents or anything very similar. Well, actually, this would be very similar to the previous category, but completely dissimilar in size. So this one from Hakuhodo is a Kokutan, technically a large eye brush, as well as this one from Chikuhodo and this one from Surat. So this is our third category, so sort of what the F brushes. And then brushes I will not be talking about in this video, so you don't waste your time hoping I tell you how to use them, are round, large blending brushes like this one. Large blending brushes like this one from Sonia G or the MAC 217. These are sort of on a medium to large range, but I consider them medium eye brushes, and you can find tons of tutorials on how to use these brushes, so I will not be talking about them. And then similarly, these for me are medium to small brushes. So compare these medium and small brushes to these large brushes here. So we're going to be talking about the big ones on this side rather than the small to medium brushes on this side. So starting with our first category, the diamond tip brushes. So depending on what material it's made out of will kind of determine or limit what you can do with them. So I have this Kolinsky filbert or cat tongue brush on this side here, and then a Psychoho goat brush, and then a Canadian squirrel brush here. So they all kind of have the same idea here, but I'll talk about the Kolinsky one separately because it behaves differently from, say, this red squirrel, this one's, no, wrong category, or this gray squirrel brush. So as long as they're on the sort of softer and less springy side, all of these can be used the same way. So I'm going to demonstrate with the GS1 because the GS1 is the largest of these and seems the most intimidating. So first things first, you can use the big flat side to apply a wash of powder. So say I've applied foundation all over my eyes as well to hide discoloration or veins. And then I can take this brush, put it in a clear or translucent powder, such as so, and then that will help take down the tackiness. So then any eyeshadow I blend over it will blend easier. That way you don't end up with patchiness and color more in one area than the other. So I'm going to use this brush really quickly to set my eyes. And then I'm going to go in with a sort of more contour-like color to sketch out the eye shape that I want. And then my mirror's down here. So I'm going to go in with this sort of brown shade here. Load it up. And I'm applying this really roughly because I'm just shaping out the eye I want. I'm going to take it a little bit up as well. And then because of that diamond tip, this does have enough of an edge that I can take the brush underneath my eyes. And then you have to use a very light pressure with this, because if you press more, it'll splay out and you'll lose all that precision. So really you're just applying it like that with a feather light touch. So when it comes to using large brushes, it's really about finesse. So what I'm doing now is I'm taking that darker color, and I'm going to use this slant you can see here, that start of the diamond tip. I'm going to apply it nearer to my lash line to intensify. And I'm going to keep the tip pointed out. So now you can see it's starting to take shape. I'm going to run this across my crease, and I'm going to put that tip of the brush up into my crease. And because this is a very soft brush, it won't irritate whatsoever. And then I'm going to take a cotton pad, swirl it around a little bit, remove color, clean off the brush thumb, and then use that clean brush to kind of facilitate that blending in with the rest of that color I had done earlier. And then take whatever is left over, bring it a little bit under the eye, like that. So as for lid color, I'm going to use the side of the brush. So I've already cleaned off my brush a little bit more. I'm going to take this, run it in the eyeshadow like so, and go across my lid. So I'm going to use this coppery color. And then as you can see, it slots in very nicely onto that lid space there. I'm using discordant color so you kind of see how so you can see the colors more, because my camera has very low contrast. So now I'm using the tip to take this color and blend it a little bit higher than my crease and into that shadow. Okay. And if I decide I want it more intense, that dark area, I go back in with my tip of the brush again. I'm going to use this lighter color though. And then lick it out. So as you can see, I'm doing a combination of drawing like this versus turning like this, because this kind of helps wipe everything together and blend in. And then I'm going to take a little bit more down through here. And then the only problem I would say with big brushes like this is you can't really get the inner corner as precisely as you can with a pencil brush or a smaller brush like this, of course. But if you're not going for that super intense inner corner highlight, if you have a diamond tip brush like this, you can definitely go in and still highlight that inner corner of the eye. And of course, how strongly the color comes on will depend on the type of brush hair you're using. So Canadian squirrel is kind of on par with goat bristles in terms of strength of applying color. It's just softer and blends better. So I'm just using this brush to demo as a shortcut. Okay. And then this is where things are going to get really funny looking, because I'm going to use another brush to sort of demonstrate the same thing with different colors. So you can also see how I used a firmer brush like this to apply a whole eye look. So I'm going to go in again with some powder, translucent, setting over the eye just to set the foundation. And then use a base color. I'm going to use this purpley one this time. It's kind of like a purple taupe. I think that's Satin Taupe by MAC. I actually have no idea what my colors are anymore. And instead of using a big wiping motion like I did with the previous brush, because this one is more firm, I'm using it almost parallel to my face like this. I'm starting in the middle and working my way up to the edges, licking the brush, or licking my eyelid with the brush. What this does is it deposits the color more strongly here, and then as pigment falls off the brush and gets brushed up towards my eye, it creates a gradient. I'm going to do a little more of that. And then this is just to shape the eye for right now. And then because of that very fine tip, I can really outline. Now I'm going to take a pad, clean it off. And then use the cleaned off brush to kind of blend the edges a little bit more. This isn't as effortless as the Canadian squirrel brush because it's not as fat or fluffy. However, it does apply color more strongly. So I'm going to use this plum color and use this as my lid color. And instead of licking, I'm just going to pat it on. So I'm kind of concentrating right on the lid right now. And then slowly I'm going to edge my way up as I pat it on. And again, take another clean pad. You can also use a clean cloth. Swipe it, remove most of the color, and then go in with a different color. Let's see. I will use this one. So this is a light pink. And I'm going to just apply this to the inner third, and that actually came off really strong. So I'm going to remove some of it. Remove some more. Here. And now I'm going to go in with the brush perpendicular like this and use that to just blend in the edge of the shiny part with the darker color I had laid down before. And I actually want to intensify this some more. So what I'm going to do instead this time is I'm going to take the lid color with the side of the brush like this. I'm going to lay it down like so. So once I'm satisfied with the intensity of it, I'm going to go back to licking the color up to blend. And that's how you use a big fat fluffy brush for this side versus a firmer filbert brush. So as you can see, the techniques, even though they were kind of the same type of brush, this flat diamond pointed brush, the techniques were completely different. So the technique I used for this side also applies with these brushes. So this is the Koyudo BP029. This is Gray Squirrel. I demonstrated with the GS1 by Hokoto, which is Canadian squirrel. This is I'm pretty sure this is a limited edition red squirrel brush by Koyudo. And this is the Tanseido WQ12. So you have brushes that are about this size and this sort of flat shape with a diamond tip. This technique can be used for all of these brushes. And of course, I also left out the part where you can use these brushes to selectively set powder under your eyes. These are fantastic for that, as well as for removing fallout. So you just kind of flick and remove. But that's how you use large eyeshadow brushes to apply eyeshadow to the eyes. I tend to have a lot of these, and this is exactly how I use them. And by these, I mean these Kolinsky filbert brushes. So now I'm going to remove my eye makeup and then move on to the group 2 brushes, which are these fatter paddles, these fatter fluffy paddles. So as you can see, nice contour shaped diamond tip, dome tip. So these are a little trickier to use, but we'll talk about that. They're a little trickier, less versatile. The more shaped and contour brushes, the more, I guess, useful and versatile it is. But the brushes I'm going to show you next have their own uses. You just have to use them differently. So that was also why I didn't apply mascara when I put on my base makeup earlier. Look kind of bald without mascara, but oh well. For the sake of demonstration. And I'm just removing the eye makeup with some Bioderma on a cotton pad. I'm going to give that a minute to dry. And while it's drying, I'm going to talk about the batch of brushes. So this is Chikuhodo Z5. This is the large eye brush. They have a smaller one. That's a pencil brush. Pencil brushes are pretty intuitive and no-brainer to use. So I'm going to be talking about how to use this big one because the Chikuhodo Z series is fairly popular, but no one seems to have any videos on how to use them. And then similarly, this is the Chikuhodo KZ06. This is the new Kazan Squirrel one. Oh, sorry. This is Gray Squirrel. This is the new Kazan Squirrel KZ06, also a large fluffy eye brush. They do differ a little bit in that this is softer and has more give. This one has more of a spring back to it. And then this one I almost didn't include. This is the Hakuhodo, let me think. 127 or this is the Hakuhodo J127. It's a little bit more on a medium size, but because of that wideness, I decided to include it in this large eye brushes video. This is made of horse. And then this is the Kevin Aquan base shadow brush. This is made of dyed goat hair. So if we compare this straight on view of the group 2 brushes versus the group 1 brushes, you can see how much more volume they have. And now that my eyes are sufficiently dry, let's go. So obviously you can use these brushes to set the eyes again with the translucent powder. I'm using the 127 for this. And I think I will use let me think. So the J127 and the Chikuhodo Z5 are the more similar to each other than the KZ06 and Kevin Aquan the Kevin Aquan shadow base brush. Because with these two, I would not use them for contour, but these I can because you just have more flex. I'll show you what I mean in a second. So I'm going to use the KZ06 first. And then I'm going to use this color. So with this brush, I can easily contour my nose, as well as sculpt out my eye. So notice where I'm concentrating the color, here and here. So then it leaves the middle of my eye bright and big. I'm going to take a little bit under the brow bone to kind of create a false socket there. And then I'm keeping it up here. Like the brush is partially in my eyebrow, but I don't have product in there, so I don't care yet. You can see already how sculpted that part is. And then I'm going to use this to sculpt out my temple just a little bit. Sculpt out my outer corner into the temple just a little bit. Take a little bit more down my nose. And you can see how that flex to the brush helps with this process because it means I don't apply too much color. Similarly, I can use this to apply contour because you see how much area that covers. It gives a nice big diffusion. And of course, I could contour under the chin, but that doesn't have to be shown. Similarly, this is the Kevin Aucoin base shadow brush. This one I use regularly for contour, more than I use it on my eyes, actually. And it's because it has that nice flex to it and nice big area of diffusion. And plus, the bristles are goat, so it blends and diffuses the color very, very well. So as you can see, there's that. I'm going to use this one to contour my nose really quickly because it's really throwing me off. Now the reason I wouldn't use the Hakuhodo J127 to do this is because the Hakuhodo J127 is smaller and it would apply color stronger because this is horse. So it wouldn't look right doing a contour unless I really, 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 really blend it. So it can be done. But you have to be a lot more careful of it. So what I'm doing is imagine this is the side of my nose. I'm pressing like this into it. So it's pretty much like this up and down the side of my nose to blend. And then just like with the brushes I use on this side, I can use this to carve out the hollow of my eye. And again, the brush is partially in my eyebrow. And I'm leaving the center part untouched on purpose. So it looks like my eyes are bigger and protrude more in the center. And then again, out towards the temples. And this is also what I would do with the Chikoto Z5. So as you can see, the Z5 would be a similar shape and size and flex. So I can use the side of this brush or the side of this brush to apply my lid color next. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. So using the side of this brush after I've cleaned it off on a cotton pad, just to remove any contamination. Going to apply my lid color. Choose this one with this part of the brush. There. And then I want to apply a slightly darker lid color above it. So this time I'm going to turn it around on its side. Go in here. On the side of the brush here. And let's see. I'm going to start in the outer corner and then drag it in. So I'm pushing the brush perpendicularly into my socket. Okay. Now I'm going to clean this off. Remove the majority of the color. And I'm going to start with the clean brush, blending the center first. So what I'm doing is I'm kind of going diagonally up and out. Cleaning off some more. Diagonally up and out. And then the weakness of this brush is you can't really finish off the inside corner, so you would need another brush for that. Or you can be lazy and just use a finger, pop it on. No one said you had to use brushes for everything. I'm going to take this brush again, tone it down here. I've wiped it off already. I'm using this to blend. And then using this to blend here. Blend the highlight into the lid color. I guess I should go back to the other eye and finish it off. This is the softer, fluffier, flexier side. This is the KZ6 again. And I'm going to be applying lid color as well. Let's use the same colors. And then this side we'll just apply it with a different finish. I'm going to use the same colors, apply in the same places with the same techniques, but it's going to look different just because the brush hairs are different and the build is more fat and fluffy. But this is just to show you the general idea of using the brushes is pretty much the same. Okay, sketch. Okay, so this is where we see especially strongly how the different types of hairs in the brushes makes for a different finish. I used this exact same copper color with a horse brush on this side, and more of the matte, dusty matrix came through, so that's why this part looks darker. Using the squirrel brush, it deposited a lot more of the shimmer, which is why even though I applied the same color in the same place, it does not look the same. So to compensate for that, I'm going to go in with a matte color in that crease area and hope it comes out looking the same in the end. Better. Put it into the crease. Cleaning up the edge of the eye. And I actually want more lid color. I want more of that shiny, so I'm going to go back in. Did I really just knock an eyeshadow out? Yes, I did. There we go. And then use a finger to pop. Clean the brush again. And blend. By the way, I don't recommend this, doing two different eyes with two different brushes. This is just for the sake of demonstration for those who just joined and wonder what the heck is going on. So, same colors, same color placements for the most part with two group 2 brushes. Let's rescue that eyeshadow before I forget and step on it. So for those who just joined, earlier it was the group 1 brushes. These flat brushes with a very chiseled diamond-like tip. The second group of brushes were also flat brushes, but with a more domed, rounder tip. And then my third group of brushes are what I call the what the F brushes. Are these actually eye brushes? And the answer is yes, sort of. And this is how you use them, but I don't use them for eyes most of the time. So I'm going to wipe my current eye makeup off and then show you what the heck I do with those. Hello, Gertrude. So hopefully this has sort of given you an idea of how to use large eye brushes, especially group 1. The group 1 eye brushes are my favorites because of that nice shape and contouring they have to the hairs. They allow you to do a lot more. So as far as giant round eye brushes go, I did say that specifically that I wasn't going to talk about how I use them. So like I could consider this a giant round eye brush, as well as I guess you could say these are giant round eye brushes too, but because they have that shaping to them, they're a little bit different in my mind. So I might as well include this in the group 3 while I talk about them. So let's talk about this one first, because this is the big elephant in the room. This is the Kokutan small eyeshadow brush something or another. Get this straight out of the way. I don't use this for eyeshadow. I use this for literally everything else. I use this for contour. And then I do use it for sweeping across the eyes with translucent powder. Might as well do that now. Use it for sweeping translucent powder. Use it for powdering under the eyes. And besides contouring on the nose, that's the closest to eye use I get to it. I use this for contour, I use this for blush, I use this for highlight. This is just one of those brushes where I looked at it and I went, really? That's an eye brush? So even I can't figure out how to use this for an eye brush unless you're doing just one big color sweep across. So not really an eye brush, but it's called an eye brush. On the other hand, it's made of blue squirrel, and it makes a fantastic cheek brush. So if you really like being careful with your cheek product placement, this is great for it. So to show you, I think I can put on a little more contour without looking ridiculous. Fits in there nicely, and because it's gray squirrel, it blends out the contour like a dream. And after I wipe it off, it does great for highlight too. I don't have blush right now to reach for to show you, but you can quickly imagine how it can be used for blush. And take this around up my temple too, because why not? So that's that brush. Yes, brush. Okay. And then this one is kind of the same thing. So everything I did on this side with it is what I can do with this side on it. So whereas this can do contour here, here, highlight here, here, this one does the same thing. This is a Chikuhodo T6. Roll it around in some of that contour color. And then because this is goat, you can see quickly how much stronger the color is going on. And I actually prefer this one more for the eye socket and nose contour because it has that flame shape to it that really allows me to get in there and just jam it into the hollows. And this one here, out on the temples. And I'm not going to do it right now with this brush because there's just way too much dark powder in there. But this one you can do for highlight down the nose, around here, out here, and then here if you really wanted to, thanks to that tip. But otherwise, for as far as eyelid color goes, the brush is pretty limited to only being able to do a true wash of color. So I'm going to do with this red one, apply it to this part here. You can see how much color that picks up, and then dust it on. And I'm using the most feather light of touches to do this. So if that's your everyday eye makeup, then this brush would be able to do it, but I personally don't recommend doing that with this brush. Moving on to the other brushes. So things I like doing with this round, big brush is stuff like this. Taking it, using it as an eraser, and just wiping away that edge of color. And blend it into either nothing or blend it into the other color. It's just a big eraser for me. And then this is unique for a round brush because it's more firmly packed in there and it doesn't quite taper the way a normal blending brush does. I should probably have pulled a few for examples, but I didn't. So how you use one like this? Same idea where you can either use it this way or this way. So just because I'm going to take a little bit on the tip of this brush, like so, remove some of it, and put it into the socket. So that's how you can do that brush. Okay. Then do a little bit more blending of the color area. And there we go. Now because this does have that dome shape, I can take it with the light color and go in here. And of course your color placement is going to be different, but the general idea is how you turn and manipulate the brush to be able to fit it into different areas of the eye so you don't have to grab a different brush for every function. So as for, this is the last brush in my lineup. This is the most what the F brush of all. This is the Smokey eye brush. I've literally never seen a video on how to use this brush, so here we go. So just to exaggerate a little bit, I'm going to take this really dark color. And what I'm going to do instead is turn it this way and drag it in. And I might not have picked up enough color on that brush. So the reason I'm doing this is because this tail end kind of blends the edge for me as I'm pulling it and creates this nice cat eye effect. So this is laying down the base of my eyeshadow. And this is gray squirrel, so you could build endlessly with this brush if you had a light enough color. I'm going to flip it around and do the inside. Okay. This one's a pretty extreme example of a candle flame brush, but if you're talking about the T6, it's a pretty good face brush for me. So as far as candle flame brushes like this go, actually, let me pull out the really wild colors because that will show up on camera better than any of the tan colors will. We're going to go for purple because why not? So I'm using the tip of this right now to deposit color here. And then I'm going to put it across the lid and drag it out. Or rather, I'm dragging it in, but the color will be going out. So this is, as its namesake suggests, a smoky eye brush. Okay, so you can see how I kind of have this haze effect now. And this is where I would actually go in with my fingers or another to apply the lid color, because there's no way this brush, with all its floppiness, is going to apply lid color. So finger it is. And it also depends on the formula you're using. So this one is Sugar Pills. It's a little bit more buildable. This is the Sugar Pill Sweetheart palette. I believe all these quads they used to have been discontinued, but I do believe they continue to sell the singles. I'm going to take a little more purple. I'm going to take a lot more purple, actually. Slap it on. I think I'm going to put some blue through the crease. It's going to end up looking like a really bruised eye, but I wanted color to be able to show how the brush applies color quickly. Should have picked black eyeshadow, but oh. I'm going to grab some blue. Actually, let's use this dark purple here. And I'm swirling the tip of it this time, like this way. And I'm really jamming it into the crease. It doesn't look that violent because the brush is so soft, but you can see how it's starting to build there. And just because, for fun, bring it down here as well. Black eye pencil and smudger with a big eye brush. No, I personally would not say a black eye pencil smudged out with a big eye brush would look that great, because eye pencils tend to be a bit thicker, so probably would not be a very good look. Let me think. If I was to use one brush to smudge out black eye pencil, it'd be this brush from the group 1. So all the other group 1 brushes I have are either goat or squirrel. That's why I would not use these for smudging out black pencil, because these are just too soft for it. This, however, is the only one that I would use out to smudge out black pencil. And let me see if I have one right here right now to use, because you can see how thin it is and how quickly it snaps back. So I have a gel pencil here. Yes, I do. I have a gel pencil here. Let me show you how that looks. I'm going to do some top lash line, bottom lash line, and this is going to be really, really rough. Where'd my cap go? There it is. So as you can see, I'm using that tip to bring it over. And I'm also not sure what pencil formula you're using, because some pencil formulas set really fast. So this one is the Clinique Quick Liner, but it's not as fast as its name would suggest. I have a little bit of playtime with it. So I'm using this to push it into the lash line, or waterline, whatever you want to call it. It's like a little bit past the lash line into the waterline. So if your eyes are very sensitive, you would not be able to use a Kolinsky brush for this. You would have to use a small pencil goat brush. So that's using this. And this is part of the reason why I love the Kolinsky filbert brushes so much. Like Koyudo makes some, Shuramura used to. There's one from Hokodo, the WS1, that is discontinued. I absolutely love that brush, but otherwise, I think you can still find these regularly from Takeda. And I'll put the link for where I got this on Amazon, actually, for this brush. So I hope that answers your question. Yes. Well, they call this pure red sable, but I'm pretty sure it's the same type of animal as Kolinsky. So the short of it is Kolinsky specifically has to be the male winter coat. Everything else, if it's from the same marten, if it's not winter, if it's female, I think they call it red sable. At least that's what all my reading has led me to believe. Okay. You're welcome. Let's see. As far as why you can only find these brushes in Fude, it might be a difference of makeup techniques, but there are plenty of professional makeup lines where they have their brushes made in Japan. So I'm thinking right now, Surratt, Ray Morris, Kevin Kwan, I think did at one point. MAC used to be made in Japan. They, if you compare some of their brushes to Hakuhodo, it's pretty clear that there's Hakuhodo DNA in there. And there's an interview that I read a while ago that I don't feel comfortable quoting exactly now. But the guy who started Hakuhodo, when he first was starting out, his first big order came from MAC. And it was something like 150,000 brushes due in a couple months' time. And it was due to the pressure of that he developed the manufacturing technique that they have now, where each person does a specific step instead of one or two artisans doing the whole brush. And that allowed him to be able to produce such good brushes so quickly. So I think it was MAC that spurred Hakuhodo's rise. Kolinsky is hard to get because there technically is a ban on them. So part of the reason it's hard to get is also because it's expensive. But as far as importing them into the US, Hakuhodo won't do it, but I've had no problems ordering Kolinsky brushes from CD Japan. Plus, if you also consider the fact that there's paint brushes made from Kolinsky and the nail brushes for doing the acrylic nails made from Kolinsky, I don't think it's hard to get due to the ban. I think it's just hard to get them in makeup brushes due to the price that makeup brush companies have to pay compared to the other companies that use them for other purposes. So I hope that helped. To summarize the video, my group 1 brushes are these flat brushes that have the diamond tip. And by diamond tip, I mean they kind of go like this, and then they go back in towards the tip. So if you have anything that looks like this, refer to the first part of the video for how to apply makeup with it. And then this is kind of a special case by itself because this is Kolinsky sable. This is Canadian squirrel, this is goat, this is red squirrel, this is gray squirrel. And then part 2 of the video was these group 2 brushes. These are much more limited in function, but I find a lot more functionality for them for doing face work, such as contouring the face, nose, and eye socket, and doing very broad, simple eye looks like this. So that's the group 2 brushes. And then depending on the type of hair you use or type of hair the brush uses will determine what you can do with the brushes. Like for this one, this is Goat. I can definitely use it with cream contour if I want to, though most of the time I use powder contour. Squirrel, no. Squirrel, no. Horse, yes, but this is a little on the smaller size for doing face contour with. And then as for weird brushes like this one's just so big. It's called an eye brush. I use it for a face brush. This is an eye brush. Pretty much just an eye brush for me. I mean, pretty much just a face brush for me, unless you use it in conjunction with a smaller eye brush to do more detailed stuff. So technically a face brush. And then eye brush, but this I would consider an eye blending brush, so this wasn't really covered in a video. This was just used to finish off an eye look created by this super big brush. And this was the brush I used to create this look in combination with some finger use. Yeah, I've never actually had brushes held in customs because of the hair type. I've only had brushes held in custom because the package was more than $800 and they wanted me to pay a fee before they release it to me. How do I feel about Chinese food brands? They're very cheap with animal hair. I haven't bought Chinese food in a long time, and by a long time, I mean 3 to 4 years. So, and in full disclaimer, I'm Chinese. So take it as you will. I'm not bashing the Chinese, but in general, what I found growing up they tend to do is their initial release of the products are very, very good. And then over time, after the company has built a reputation, name-wise, they start to go cheaper on the manufacturing quality and details. Actually, this is not unique to Chinese companies. Plenty of Western companies do this too. So bashing them based on that is not correct. But I will say buy with trepidation. I would not buy a huge order at first. I would kind of test out a couple here or there and then buy more. It's not like I'm buying from, say, Hakuhodo or Koyudo where I know the quality is always going to be consistent. But with the Chinese companies, I can't say because it's been several years since I bought from them. And, well, let's just look at MAC. Their brushes clearly had a sharp downhill after a while. If you compare the quality of a very old 217 versus the current 217, not current, sorry, the second to current generation of the 217s when they were still goat hair, the quality obviously had changed. And I don't believe they were being manufactured by Hakuhodo anymore at that point. But I could be wrong. Maybe MAC just ordered the same brushes from Hakuhodo in a lower price point here. Anyways, that's all speculation, and nothing legal can come out of it, hopefully. But I also have hesitation to recommend Chinese food from a, I guess, ethical standpoint. They're basing their company off the reputation that Japanese companies have created. So from a business creation standpoint, if they're completely unique brushes, I say go ahead, go for them. But if you're buying Chinese food, they're obviously, what do you call them? Imitations or copies of the Japanese ones. Like I've seen the Chinese brushes that they create a set of brushes just like the Chikuhodo Z series. However, they just put their own label on them after they've made them. That's where I kind of draw the line saying, no, I'm not going to buy that because they didn't create a unique product on their own. So that's a very long and roundabout way to tell you what I feel about Chinese food brands. From an emotional standpoint, I don't like them because if you've noticed the Japanese companies raising their prices on hairs, it's because there's more demand on the hairs and they're getting more expensive, hence the switch to synthetics. I get the feeling that part of that more expensive hair might be due to the fact that Chinese brush companies are outbidding Japanese ones. So the Japanese ones can no longer afford the natural hair because the Chinese ones just buy so much of it volume-wise. So that's how I feel about that. However, it is capitalism, so whatever. Good for them. They're able to buy the hair and make the brushes. And some of them, I do have to admit, are very good. So, yeah. And then if there aren't any more questions, I'm going to jump off here. Thank you for watching and looking at my crazy eye look, and I hope you have a great rest of your weekend, whatever remains of it. Bye.